Good morning, everybody. Myself, Raghuveer Singh, lecturer in civil engineering from Pandit G.R. Government Polytechnic College, Sharpur. Today, in this session of IUSET lecture, I am going to discuss on one of the interesting topics of railway bridges and tunnels from the fifth semester civil engineering diploma, and that is regarding the rail fixtures and fastenings. Now, let us start with the contents of today's lecture. We will start up with the definition of fixtures and fastenings. What are fixtures and fastenings, and what are their functions? What are the different types of fixtures and fastenings? We have a variety of fixtures and fastenings like fish plates, bearing plates, chairs, spikes, bolts, keys, and lastly the anchors and anti-creepers. So, we will discuss all these fixtures and fastenings one by one. So, just starting with the definition of fixtures and fastenings. Now, these are the fittings used to link rails end to end and for fixing the rails to the slippers in a track. So, these are called fixtures and fastenings. We also call them track fittings. So, these are mainly used to link the rails end to end and for fixing the rails to the slippers. Something more about these two, the fittings which are permanently fastened in the track for making connections of rail to rail and rail to the slippers, those are called fixtures which are permanently fastened. For example, the fish plates, bearing plates and chairs, etc., these are considered in fixtures. And regarding the fastenings, fastenings are the fittings which are used for securing the connections between rail to rail and rail to slippers. So, this is the basic difference between the fixtures and fastenings. The fixtures are the permanently fastened parts, whereas the fastenings, these are generally securing those connections, those fixtures like spikes, bolts and keys. These are the examples of fastenings. Now, regarding their functions, the very first function of these fixtures and fastenings is to connect the rails end to end to form the full length of the track. As we all know, the rails are available in standard lengths. So, it is always desirable to connect them end to end so that we can make a full length of the track worth kilometers. So, these fixtures play a very important role in connecting those rails. Secondly, to fix the rails to the slippers, to keep them in the required positions. We all know the rails are resting on the slippers. So, to make them contact with each other, to fix them both, we use once again the fixtures and fastenings. Thirdly, the third function is to maintain the required tilt of the rails. We all know that rails are tilted they are tilted, they are given certain slope. So, to maintain that tilt, once again these fixtures are very helpful. Something more about the functions. Now, these allow the expansions and contractions of rails due to the temperature variations. Very important factor. Due to temperatures, there is a contraction and expansion in the rails. So, these fixtures give that tolerance or that allowable limit so that these rails can expand or contract during the temperature variations. Once again, the very crucial parts of railways is the points and crossings. So, to maintain those points and crossings properly, once again these fixtures and fastenings play a very important role. And lastly, to maintain the correct alignment of the track, alignment is very important in the track. So, to maintain that correct alignment of the track both laterally, widthwise, and vertically. So, both ways to maintain the correct alignment, once again fixtures and fastenings are very important. Now, regarding the different types of fixtures and fastenings, we have a lot of options, but all the options are not meant for the single purpose. Different type of fixtures and fastenings are used at different places. So, when we will discuss each and every fixtures and fastenings, you will get a clear idea that where fish plates are suitable and where we are using the chairs or the spikes or the keys. So, let us see one by one. Firstly, regarding the fish plates, as you can see in this diagram also, now this extra attachment, this is a fish plate with 4 bolts here, and this is the one length. Now, here is the joint of this rail. 2 rails are connected with the help of this fish plate. So, the plates which are used at the rail joints, this is the joint of rail. The plates which are used at rail joints to maintain the continuity of the rails in a track are known as the fish plates. So, this is giving a very clear idea what exactly a fish plate is. These fish plates are mostly made up of mild steel flats, and their thickness is 20 mm. And regarding their length, these fish plates are 456 mm in length with 4 number, as you can see here also 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now, we have 4 holes here from where these bolts are passed. So, these are having 4 number of 32 mm diameter holes and at 114 mm center to center. The distance between these 2 holes or all these holes, adjacent holes, it is 114 mm center to center. So, 20 mm thick flat with 456 mm length, having 432 mm holes with center to center distance of 114 mm, 114 mm. And moreover, these are rolled to fit well in between the head and foot of the rail. It means that now this is the head of the rail and foot is somewhere here. So, these are rolled or these are manufactured in such a way that these fit very exact or suitably in between this head as well as this foot in between. So, these are rolled accordingly. Moreover, at rail joint, wherever the joint is, at the rail joint, 2 fish plates, one on either side of the joint are used. Now, this is important. We are not using a single fish plate. We are using on both ways, on the outer side of the railway track as well as on the inner side of the railway track, with in the form of a pair, you can say. So, at rail joint, 2 fish plates, one on either side of the joint are used. Also, both the plates are held together by 4 fish bolts. Regarding fish bolts also we will discuss later on, but as we have seen in the previous diagram also, we have 4 fish bolts. So, these plates, both plates are held together by the 4 fish bolts, and these bolts passes through the same holes of 32 mm as I have mentioned recently, provided in the web of the rails. We all know which is the web part. Now, this part is the web part, the head, web and the foot. So, the bolts are passing through this web part having 32 mm holes, and in pairs. We are using fish plates in pairs. Now, something more about it. Now, the holes which are drilled in the web of the rails are slightly wider. Now, this is very much understood that if we are passing the bolts through those holes, the holes are slightly having wider dimensions than the bolts. So, the holes which are drilled in the web part of the rails, these are slightly wider. Why? So, to allow the expansion and contraction of the rails. We all know these are exposed to the atmosphere, these rails are exposed. So, certainly there are temperature variations, and so to cover up that temperature variations, these holes which are drilled in the web part, this part, so those are having slightly wider dimensions as compared to the bolts, just to accommodate the expansion and contraction of rails. Now, regarding these fish plates, what are the functions of these fish plates? The very first function, now just have a look on it. These fish plates are firstly maintaining the continuity of the railway track. As I told you earlier also, these rails are available in standard lengths. So, just to maintain the continuity of this track, we use fish plates. Here you can see this is the fish plate used. And secondly, to maintain the correct alignment of the track, to maintain the correct alignment of the track at each rail joint laterally and vertically, we use the fish plates. And once again, to accommodate the variations, temperature variations, once again we are using these fish plates. So, regarding the types of fish plates, we all know the rails are available in different sections, like these are flat-footed rails, we have bull-headed rails. So, in the case of flat-footed rails, we are having bone shape in section. Now, these are the fish plates which are used, and these are bone shaped in section, and these can safely resist the stresses due to lateral and vertical bending of rails under the impact of the moving wheel loads. So, the fish plates, especially for the flat-footed rails, these are bone in shape in the case of flat-footed rails, whereas in the case of bull-headed rails, the fish plates for bull-headed rails are provided with increased depth. It means that the depth is increased till here in the case of bull-headed, and the head part as well as in the foot part, the depth is increased in general. Why so? This is to secure the greater stiffness of the rail joint. So, these are the two types of fish plates, one for the flat-footed rails and another for the bull-headed rails. Now, coming to the bearing plates. Now, what are bearing plates in railways? The plates which are placed in between the flat-footed rails and the wooden sleepers on the railway track are known as bearing plates. Now, look at this diagram. These are the bearing plates which are placed in between the rails as well as the slipper. So, these are basically bearing the load coming on this track and just transferring it to the slipper parts. Once again, repeating the definition, the plates which are placed in between the flat-footed rails and the wooden sleepers on the railway track are known as bearing plates. Now, these bearing plates are in fact chairs for the flat-footed rails. These are acting as the chairs for the flat-footed rails, and these plates consist of the materials cast iron, maybe wrought iron or steel. And moreover, these steel bearing plates are commonly used in Indian railways. We have three options for the bearing plates: cast iron, wrought iron or steel, but amongst these three we are preferring the steel bearing plates in Indian railways. So, this is something regarding the bearing plates. Now, the question is, what are the advantages of using these bearing plates? Yes, there are many advantages of using these bearing plates. Firstly, these plates are distributing the load coming on the rails on a larger area of slippers. The rails are having narrow section, the slippers are having wider or the broader section. So, just transferring the load coming on the rails on a larger area of the slippers first, and thus preventing the sinking of the rail into the soft wooden slipper. Once again, look at this diagram. If we are using these bearing plates, the load is coming over these rails, the load of the wagons. Now, if this bearing plate is not provided here, then there are many chances that this foot of the rail, it may sink into this wooden slipper. Since the wood of the slipper is soft, so it will sink into it, and that may cause damage in the future. So, these bearing plates are playing a very crucial role by just distributing the load coming on the rails on a larger area of the slippers, thus preventing the sinking of the rail into the soft wooden slipper. Secondly, these plates prevent the rail cutting of the slipper due to rubbing action of the rail at its seat, thereby increasing the life of the slipper, resulting economy. We know when the load is coming over the rail part, then there is a rubbing action of the rail at its seat. So, that is once again prevented by these bearing plates. So, what happens then? The life of the slipper increases. Of course, it is not required to change that slipper for a longer time, thus resulting in the economy of total overall economy of Indian Railways. The third advantage is these bearing plates increase the overall stability of the track. Now, this is an extra attachment provided in between the rails and the slippers. So, if we are providing a plate in between, it is providing us the overall stability of the track. Fourthly, these plates enable the spikes to remain tight under vibrations. Spikes are, we will discuss in the later slides, that what exactly are the spikes. These are just like nails, you can say. So, these spikes remain tight under the vibrations, which require less maintenance. And lastly, these plates prevent the widening of the gauge. Now, whenever there is a movement of rail over the track, then there is a possibility that there may be a widening of gauge due to the movement, especially on the curves. So, these plates prevent those widening of the gauges, especially on the curves, and thus providing us a better maintenance of the track or of the gauge. So, this is all regarding the bearing plates. So, till now we have discussed what are fish plates, the fixtures, then the second type of fixtures, the bearing plates. Now, just coming to the chairs part. Now, chair is a very common word in which we often sit, but here chair means something different. In the case of railways, this is a good diagram showing what exactly is the chair. This is a fixture which is used in railway track. Now, these are the devices which are used for holding the double-headed and bull-headed rails. These are basically, we have three different type of rail sections: the double-headed rail sections, the bull-headed rail sections, and the flat-footed. We have just studied in bearing plates the flat-footed one. So, chairs are not meant for flat-footed rails. These are just the devices which are used for holding the double-headed and the bull-headed rails in the required position. So, these are called chairs. Now, how they work or how they are fitted, we will see something regarding their construction part, that these are made up of the cast iron material. All the chairs are consisting of two jaws. As you can see, this is first jaw, this is the second jaw, and a rail seat. So basically it has three parts, two jaws and one rail seat. Something more about it. Now here is another view of chair, one jaw, the second jaw, and here is the seat part. The jaw of the chair towards the inside of the track. Now this is alone a diagram of chair, it is not fitted here, but if this part is fitted towards the track, so this is the inner jaw, and the other one towards the outside of the track, it is known as outer jaw. So if this is the inner one, this will be the outer jaw. Moreover, the rail seat is provided with the inward slope of 1 in 20. Now just if you see, now this is the seat which is giving slightly a tilt of 1 in 20. There is a slope of this seat of 1 in 20 just to provide the required tilt of rails. Now when the rail is inserted in between these two jaws, then the rails are also tilted along with this rail seat. Regarding chairs, in the case of, we have three types of materials, the wooden, cast iron and the steel. So in the case of wooden sleepers, chairs are fixed to these sleepers by 2 to 4 spikes. In the case of wooden sleepers, we are using 2 to 4 spikes. In the case of cast iron, the chairs are cast with the sleepers. Now these are casted along with the sleepers, the extra chairs are not provided. Whereas in the case of steel sleepers, the chairs are welded to the sleepers. Now you can see in all the three cases, we have three different styles. In the case of wooden sleepers, we are fixing chairs with the help of spikes. In the case of cast iron sleepers, these chairs are casted with the sleepers, whereas in the case of steel sleepers, these are welded to the sleepers. So we have three different cases, three different type of attachments, you can say, for the chairs. Now how these chairs are fixed to the rails. Now look here in this diagram, this is the top view. Now here, this is one inner jaw of the rail, this is the outer jaw, here is the rail seat, and this is the rail section, which is put in between these two jaws. So for fixing the double-headed or bull-headed rails to the chair, the rail is placed between the two jaws of the chair. The rail is put in between the two jaws of the chair. It is held tightly against the inner jaw. This is the inner jaw. It is held tightly against the inner jaw by driving the key on the outer side. Here key is drived, that is the fastening key, and these are tightened enough. So this is basically regarding the chairs, that what are the chairs, how they are fitted, what is their construction. Now coming to the spikes. Spike is a very common word which we often used for our spike shoes used by some sportsmen. And these are, we know that the shoes are provided with the nail type attachments at the bottom part. So these are very much like those spikes, but here these spikes are acting as the fastenings. Now why they are provided? These spikes are required to fix the rails, bearing plates or chairs to the wooden sleeper. Just like we are using the nails in any wooden attachment while manufacturing any type of, it may be a bed or a door. In the similar way, we are using spikes to fix the rails, bearing plates or chairs to the wooden sleepers. Now good spikes should be strong enough to hold the rails, bearing plates and the chairs in the proper position. Spikes plays a very important role. If these are not of good quality, not strong, then the whole of the system, it may damage or it may cause some problems in the future. Thirdly, they should be easy in fixing and removing with the less initial and maintenance costs. once again very important. The spikes, we can easily fix them or remove them whenever required. There should be a less initial cost and of course less maintenance cost. So these are some requirements of the good spikes. How much good, or what should be the exact requirements of the spikes? This should be strong enough, should be easy in fixing and removing with less initial and maintenance cost. Now look at this diagram. These are some different type of spikes which we are using in rails. Now this is a wooden slipper in which we have used different type of spikes. Just an idea, just to get an idea how these spikes look like. There are different type of spikes we are using in rails. The dog spikes, very strange name, but yes, when we will see the shape of it, then you will get a clear idea why these spikes are called dog spikes. Then screw spikes, round spikes, and the elastic spikes. We have 4 different types of spikes. Coming to the first part, now these are the dog spikes. Due to their shape of the head, these spikes are known as the dog spikes due to the shape of their head. Now this is the head part and this is the body of the spikes. Now these are square in sections. This section is square. It is not round or circular. It is square in section, as you can see. It's very much clear from this diagram also. These are square in section, simply in the form of stout nails. These are looking like nails, having a top head and a body, and here it's giving a look of a nail. Now these are used to hold the flat-footed rails to the wooden slippers. Once again, these are not being used in bull-headed or double-headed rails. These are used in flat-footed rails to fix them up with the wooden slippers. Now they are cheap, maintain better gauge, and these can be easily fixed and removed, especially the dog spikes. I am talking about the dog spikes. These are cheaper comparatively. They maintain better gauge and they can be easily fixed and removed. Now coming to the second type of spikes, these are some of the screw spikes. As you can see the threads here, that's why, and these are giving the looks of a screw. So these are called screw spikes, and these spikes are tapered screws provided with V threads. These are all V threads. Now their head is semicircular. As you can see their heads, these are semicircular. All heads are semicircular with square projections. The projections are square. Semicircular heads with the square projections. These spikes have more than double the holding power of dog spikes. Means these are better than dog spikes. These are having the power more than double as compared to the dog spikes. And moreover, these can resist the lateral thrust in a better way. Whenever there is a movement in the rail and there is a lateral thrust, so these screw spikes are very good. These are very durable and give us good results as compared to the dog spikes. The second type of spikes, screw spikes. Coming to the third one, now this is an example of round spike. As you can see, the section is round. It is not square section, it is round one. Now these spikes are 19 mm in dia with 38 mm head, 38 mm dia of head, either cylindrical or hemispherical. Now this head can be of different shape also. It may be cylindrical or hemispherical, and these spikes are used for fixing chairs of bull-headed rails to the wooden slippers. Now these are not used for the flat-footed one. These are used for the bull-headed rails to the wooden slippers and for fixing slide chairs of points and crossings on wooden slippers. So this is regarding the round spikes. Now coming to the elastic spikes, it's of a special shape. These spikes are available in the variety of patented forms. It's not necessary that the elastic spike is always in this shape. There may be a change in this shape. We have different patented forms These spikes are provided with a steel spring. As you can see, these are two steel springs. We are using steel springs and a specially shaped head. Now, this is a specially shaped head of elastic spikes. These are once again used for flat-footed rails to wooden sleepers, and